What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Wait, don't you think the intro was kinda similar to Evildea? Well, that's exactly who we are gonna investigate today. Now, if you don't know, for a little bit of context, Evildea is an Australian language learner, I guess, and he used to investigate a lot of people on YouTube. Some of them were like legitimate polyglots, while some of them were like absolute nonsense speaking or claiming to speak 100 languages. But there was no one to investigate him, right? Well, that's exactly where I come in. Just ask yourself, there's gotta be someone to investigate, someone who investigates a lot of people, right? So in this video, I'm gonna go over his languages, his claims, and investigate him to find out if he is a fraud or a legitimate language learner. And luckily, he doesn't claim to speak like 100 of different languages. He just claims to speak a couple of languages, so we're just gonna say if that's legitimate or that's fake. But before, my name is Saunav and I love learning languages, so let's begin the video right away. We don't have to look no further because I just found his claims on his channel info on YouTube. Him saying, I'm a game developer, actor, and lover of languages. I speak English natively, Esperanto C1, Mandarin Chinese intermediate, and Toki Pona beginner. Now, considering intermediate to be B2 and B1, and beginner to be A1 and A2, let's find out if he's actually a legitimate language learner or a fraud. Now, if you don't know what A1, A2 are those like letters and numbers mean, well, I'm gonna explain everything to you. Now, this is CEFR, Common European Framework of Languages. This is basically to evaluate someone's ability in a particular language. When somebody says they are a beginner in particular languages, that means like they are either A1 or A2. And when somebody says they are advanced, that means like C1 or C2, and intermediate is like B2 and B1. Now, as you can see here, he got English, Esperanto, Chinese, Spanish, and Toki Pona. Now, he doesn't mention that he speaks Spanish, but he's been doing like AZL, like, Dreaming Spanish Challenge for over a year now. I guess like he's done like, I don't know, 600 plus hours. So yeah, we can read it. So yeah, this is what he claims, like his levels in specific languages. We got like beginner in Spanish and Toki Pona. Again, he doesn't claim it for Spanish, but yeah, he got like Chinese, Esperanto, and we ain't reviewing his English. Like he makes mistakes, like, a lot of people correct his mistakes in the comment section. Like they say he's B2 or something. I don't know, that's a joke, right? And then yeah, we ain't reviewing his English. He's definitely like C1 or C2. We don't need to review that. He's a native speaker. So yeah. And then yeah, I asked a lot of people on Discord to evaluate his Chinese and his Esperanto. So yeah, let me just go through their comments and what they say, and we will eventually find out if he is a fraud or a legitimate language learner. I guess I said that like probably 5 to 6 times already. I know.
Do ci foi mi simple volas paroli per la unua oficiala romantica intervjuo? Ne, rendevuo inter mi kaj la edzino. Do mi supposas ja povas esti intervjuo. Rendevuo estas speco de intervjuo, sed tio ne estas grava. Do mi volas paroli pri la unua rendevuo inter mi kaj la edzino. Kaj kompreneble tiutempe en la rakonto ŝi ne estis mia edzino, simple estis konatino de mi, ĉar se ŝi jam estus mia edzino kaj tio estus la unua oficiala renkontiĝo inter ni, tio estas ege stranga, sed mi flanken parolas. Mi nun volas reveni al la temo.
A guy said like he's easily C1 in Spanish, and I asked him to watch a video of him speaking Esperanto. It was probably from a few years ago, and he said like the only mistakes that he finds are like the minor ones, and they don't affect his communication at all. And yeah, I think he made a video saying how he passed the C1 test in Esperanto. So if he passed the C1 test, that probably means he is C1, plus like he's been studying Esperanto for like 10 years, for like 15 years, I don't know. And someone also says most of the mistakes that he makes are usually because of using English idioms in Esperanto. And Lilia, or whatever her name is, she said like, I feel he does have some sort of Angloism that are persistent in speech, but again, it's a minor problem, so it doesn't really matter. And I wonder what Anglomoy or whatever that is. One small mistake was him saying "Mi estás trova, I'm too much," when he meant that it would be too much if we gave flowers on the first date. And also, if we are talking about Esperanto, we can't miss my guy, Kakodoka. I can never pronounce his name correctly. Kakodoka, Karakora, I don't know. But I'm talking about this guy who appeared in one of my searches a few months ago. And yeah, he also reviewed his Esperanto thoroughly. So his comment is a bit long, but let's read that. His review was so long that I couldn't do it while sharing my screen. So I had to get this phone to like read that. And yeah, it's gonna be on the left or right side of the screen. So you can read it together with me if you want. And I don't know what they are saying. I'm just reading it, and yeah, if y'all speak Esperanto, y'all can just know what he's talking about, right? Okay, there's a link of the video, and turns out he passed the C1 exam in Esperanto around October 2025 for future reference. More info in a previous video. I'll give you the link of that video in the description of this video. For your investigation, I chose this blog. Okay, there's gonna be the link of this video too. The pronunciation. General pronunciation and accent are extremely good. However, he has a different pronunciation of R than me. Actually, this is wrong. He sometimes has a different pronunciation of R only at the beginning of words. For instance, the first word of romantica, which sounded like romantica to me. Count in 60 seconds. Around 25 occurrences of perfectly valid and understandable R, both at the beginning and in the words. Around 5 occurrences of R at the beginning of the word, which sounded like hr to me. My conclusion is that when he learned the language, he struggled with the R sound and developed some way of making the R, which was imperfect and got stuck with some words but got removed with most of them. This doesn't hurt my understanding, but I might get confused for the first times I hear it if I'm not focused and or lose the context. The vocab. There is not much to say. He uses appropriate words, combine them with useful, and doesn't slow down his speech to search them. There are some examples of combining where I do not use. He uses Havagi Almi where I use Ekavi, but both are perfectly valid. The grammar. I noticed two things that might be errors, but are now also errors. First, he says at 043, Mi yell successive Havigi Almi. In itself, this is valid. However, based on the later sentences, I got the feeling that he meant EL because he knows why I got the number to text her and not how. However, he might really mean EL, I can't know. And it's also possible what he said EL and I can't hear the difference of one vowel in that video. Second, at the end of 60 seconds, he said, Kaimi istis tre escrita pro tio, pritio. Do not get out of context, where I would say escritura. To be honest, I thought it was spelled and pronounced escritita and just learned something. After checking dictionaries and textile.com, indeed in the sentence, the word escritita would have been more appropriate. For reference, what he said would get translated to I was really excited instead of I was really excited. Again, do not get out of context. Conclusion. He definitely has C1 and got official test for that and can talk about literally anything without having to think about the language that much and get understood. However, there are some situations around 1 minute where wording can get a little off, but it still be understandable. I think he, as I do, would struggle with C2 test, but it's not out of his reach if he prepares. Finally, I just finished reading his text. And after seeing all this, I would say his Esperanto is C1, if not even higher. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna put it in C1 range. Might be a bit higher, like kinda close to C2, but Kakodoka, again, I don't know how to pronounce that name, told me he would struggle with C2, so I'm gonna say he is C1, no doubt.
学习一门我想学习一门容易学的语言，所以我去 Google 开始怎么说 search， 我知道 search 是什么但是我现在不能说出来，我觉得是没关系I started searching.
I couldn't find a lot of people in the beginning to read his Chinese, but I did find some of him. And yeah, someone told me like the first sentence in a video, I will give you the link of that video in the description again, is incorrect, but it's understandable and he makes a lot of mistakes. And someone was even asking why he pronounces the X sound as sir, like and I guess something like that, I don't know. People were still like fighting against if it was right or if it was wrong. They were talking about like different Chinese accents, but yeah, let's see what other reviews have to say. And yeah, at the end, I found someone to evaluate his Chinese. He or she told me he might be B1, B2, and I asked them to point out his mistakes and what he could improve. And yeah, let's go through this. Sometimes he might forget certain words or need a moment to think when using major words. Of course, it would be even better if he could recall them instantly. But honestly, he's already doing really well, and I think this level is more than enough. Regarding the level C, it's a bit hard to tell just from a single conversation like this. C level usually involves using Chinese to learn or discuss more complex topics. While the topic he talked about here, like I think he talked about like how he got into Esperanto, is more typical of B level. So based on this video, it's not easy to say whether he's at C level, but his current level is already very strong. I actually had another review too. Let me find that one. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, this guy. I sent him this video, I think like hour 15 of the series, like he had a series science speaking update, something like that. I don't know why he doesn't make that video these days, but yeah. I asked him how good he is, and he said like, to be honest, the pronunciation is very accurate, especially the tones, which is difficult to most non-native Chinese speakers. And I asked him about his grammar and vocab. It's basic, he said. Are you familiar with CEFR levels, I said. And he told me yes. And I asked him what he thinks about his level in general, and he was like, okay, if we just evaluate his Chinese level from all the videos about Chinese, I would probably give him B1 or A2, A2 to B1. Okay, some people said he was B1, B2, and the others said he was A2 to B1, and he said he was beginner. Them is like he might be anywhere from B1 to B2. So his Chinese might be like anywhere from A2 to B2. Also, he makes a lot of mistakes in Chinese. He himself says that. So yeah, looking at all this, I would say his Chinese is intermediate. There ain't no doubt. Now we got Spanish. We don't have to look at his Spanish. Like he hasn't claimed a specific level in Spanish, and he's just doing like AGL or like Dreaming Spanish challenge, and he doesn't claim to speak Spanish to like C1, neither C1 nor A1, nothing. So we don't have to review his Spanish, but for the curiosity, since it's one of the languages that I speak, I would say he might be like his listening might be around A2 and his speaking might be like A0. Like he doesn't speak like literally nothing in Spanish. The last time he made a video saying one sentence in Spanish and literally there was not a single word that he got correct. So his Spanish is in general A1. Also, he doesn't even claim to speak, so it don't really matter, right? And I think in his 650 hours of review of Dreaming Spanish, I wrote a comment asking him for his Spanish level, and a lot of people say like his listening might be A2 or B1, but his speaking is like A0 or A1. So it kind of matches what I said. And honestly, it doesn't even matter. Like he doesn't claim to speak it. So yeah. And for Toki Pona, which is a language he claims to speak at like the beginner level, and like it's got like 130 words, and if he says the beginner level, that probably means like he know half of the words in the whole language. And honestly, I couldn't find anyone who spoke Toki Pona, so it doesn't really matter. Like he got all the languages that people actually speak to the levels that he claims to speak those languages at. So he's not a fraud, he's a legitimate language learner. He doesn't claim to be a hyper polyglot, or in fact he doesn't even claim to be a polyglot. So he is in fact real, legit, and genuine. He ain't no fraud. So yeah, you should trust that guy. And yeah, he was the first person that I investigated. I think he might be the only one that I'm gonna investigate. And he turns out to be a real legitimate language learner. So yeah, that's everything for today. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye and trust that guy. What you looking at? I'm just here to say that I hope he doesn't hit me with the copyright strike.